Sparked off by Mohan Bhagwat. What really is the RSS Sarsanchalak's message? Is the RSS drawing its own Lakshman Rekha for Muslims when they live in India? Has Bhagwat done a U-turn from some of his more moderate comments that he made last year? Sudhindra Kulkarni is former BJP National Executive member but columnist and someone who's tracked the RSS for years. Shahid Siddiqui, former MP, was part of the group of Indian Muslim intellectuals who met Mohan Bhagwat a few months ago. Tushar Gupta is senior editor at Swaraj magazine, and Professor Sangeet Kumar Ragi is professor at Delhi University and has written extensively on the RSS, including a book on RSS and Gandhi. Appreciate all of you joining us. I want to understand from you, Shahid Siddiqui, first, because you met Mohan Bhagwat and then you seem to suggest after the meeting that Mr. Bhagwat was someone with whom the Muslims could do a dialogue. Now you hear Mohan Bhagwat talking about a 1,000-year war, talking about how Muslims must abandon their sense of belligerent supremacy. How do you see it? Do you see these as worrying statements, or do you see it possible to have a dialogue with Mohan Bhagwat?
Rajdeep, RSS is one of the most powerful organizations in the world, and we have to take anything said by its chief very seriously. And there is a design to what he says. So what he says now is that there is a constant war for 1,000 years. He also says that this war, there may be yet another war. I don't know what he means, and this war will be with the enemies within. And in a war, people, and if the Hindus are at war and therefore if they are aggressive, there is nothing wrong. Now we went to him with the idea that we must build bridges. We went to him with the idea that both communities have to build this country. We have to have social peace. And we still believe that that will be done because we have total faith in India and we have total faith in the people of India.
No, but do you have faith in
a section of India?
No, but do you have faith in Mohan Bhagwat? Look, do you have faith in Mohan Bhagwat, or is he going back?
No, we don't. No. We don't have to have faith in Mohan Bhagwat or on anybody. We have to have faith in the constitution of this country and the people of this country. And Mohan Bhagwat is also part of the constitution, part of in India and part of this country. And therefore, he is a powerful leader. Today, those who are in power represent his ideology, and therefore we are ready to talk to anybody. There is nothing wrong in talking to him. And what I am saying is that at this point, his statement is worrying for everybody, not for just Muslims. It should worry the nation. It should worry those who believe in a peaceful nation, a nation which should develop itself. If it is at war and if it is waiting for another war, and if it has to be aggressive, then the country is really, it should worry everyone who loves this country and this society.
Okay, let's look at that statement closely about Mohan Bhagwat claiming that the country has been through a 1,000-year war and it is necessary to carry on with the war to protect Hindu culture, society and dharma. Professor Sangeet Kumar Ragi, who is he referring to when he says there are enemies within? We have to face this war internally now. He's not mentioning Muslims there, but the suggestion therefore is that Hindus, in a way, their aggression is justified and that they have to prepare themselves for some kind of a war. How do you interpret it?
Rajdeep, I think that the reaction against what Mohan Bhagwat has said is completely disproportionate. And why I am saying so? He is talking that there is no space for absolutism in this country. Entire ethos of Hindu idea is something against absolutism. The sage in the Rig Veda says that I have seen the God. He has the light of thousands of suns, but that is my reality. That is not the absolute reality. And immediately he says, Neti, Neti, Neti. The Hinduism doesn't make distinction between self and the others. Here you are confronting an ideology which makes a distinction between self and others.
No, so who is the war against? Who is the war that he is talking about? Is it against Islamist ideology?
Yes,
who is the war?
Yes. Let me say. I was coming to the point that he is talking not against Muslim, but he is talking against the ideology of Islam. That kind of interpretation which says that you are here, you are born to rule. You are a different race altogether. Look at what Sir Syed said in 1887. He says that we are the nation whose forefathers created on the basis of the terror coming from the swords. We won this. And this is what Sir Syed is referring to in 1887 in Merit speech. Secondly, there is a book, beautiful book by Mushrul Haq. He was a professor professor of history, and he was killed in 1990 in Srinagar. He has written a beautiful piece that is Islam in a Secular World. Still the Muslim, a section, I'm not saying that all Muslims carry the same sense of, understanding what, saying that we are the inheritors of, we are the inheritors of Aurangzeb. We were the ones who used to rule this country. And remember, both Sir Syed in 1888 and Jinnah in 1943 is referring to this fact that it is the Britishers who took power from us, and therefore if India wins the freedom, the power should be given back to us. This is the kind of a mentality which he is.
So you're saying that he is in a way standing up to that particular section of Muslims who you claim are still seeing themselves in terms of being inheritors of, but the question is the manner in which he seems to generalize. Sudhindra Kulkarni, the sense is Mr. Bhagwat appears to generalize and single out Muslims. Because the fact is, this rhetoric of supremacy or this aggressive rhetoric is also practiced by by groups like the Bajrang Dal or BHP tomorrow. Ki mandir yahi banayenge. When over using slogans like Jai Shri Ram, you use it as a militant slogan. How do you see it? Should Mohan Bhagwat have drawn a line therefore for all, not just only singled out Muslims?
First of all, Rajdeep, if you read the entire interview, he has actually said that notions of supremacy are wrong whether they manifest among Muslims or Hindus or communists. So, we must give...
no, sure, but he also... Sudhindra, he also says... First. Sir, he also says Muslims must abandon their boisterous rhetoric of supremacy. He also specifically says that.
Yeah.
He has no sermons to offer the Bajrang Dal when they say
what Mohan Bhagwat says,
jo Hindu hit ki baat karega, wahi desh pe raj karega. So there is no sermonizing to groups like that. Where is the sermonizing to those groups?
No, Rajdeep.
One minute, let him respond.
See, Rajdeep, there are three things that Mohan Bhagwat has said. It is truly deplorable that the RSS chief says that Hindus are at war and are at war for 1,000 years. This is absolutely wrong, and it actually goes against the need for strengthening national unity and national integration. There has been some antagonism between Hindus and Muslims, but there is also a long process of integration, of harmonizing, and that is the basic character of India, that it integrates diverse faiths, diverse cultures, and creates something new. The second thing that's also deplorable is where he says that it is natural for Hindus to be aggressive in this war. By saying this, he is somehow condoning acts of aggression and statements of aggression coming from the ruling establishment, and we have very recently seen a member of the ruling party saying that har ghar mein chaku hona chahiye, pata nahi kab kaam aayega. Similarly, there have been saffron-clad so-called sadhus who gave calls for genocide. Now, this aggression is somehow being condoned by saying that it is natural for Hindus to be aggressive. So, coming from the RSS chief, it's truly deplorable. The third thing that he has said, that requires a nuanced approach in my view, because the notions of supremacy, that we once ruled the country and therefore we will rule once again, it is certainly there in a section of Muslim community. It cannot be denied. Denying this is self-delusion. The notion of supremacy, that we are the greatest faith, we are superior to others, others are inferior, this notion is certainly there among a section of Muslims, and therefore there must be honest introspection and self-correction in the Muslim community. So on the third aspect, I think that we need to look at Mohan Bhagwat's statement in a nuanced way.
Okay, so you're...
And as I said earlier,
Yes.
he has also added that notions of supremacy are wrong even if they manifest among Hindus.
Okay, as you said, there are nuances to what he has suggested. But Tushar Gupta, do you think that Mohan Bhagwat, in a way, is once again falling into the trap of singling? If you look at his statements 5 or 6 months ago, they seemed much more moderated. They seemed much more inclusive. In this occasion, when he speaks about this 1,000-year war in particular, it almost appears that he's once again going into these civilizational battles that are existing and continue to exist at the moment.
Good evening. Look, he is indeed referring to some civilizational battles, but he's also referring to the futility of them in the current context. I would just like to elaborate from where Professor Ragi left. Now, if we look at the current context, we talk about the regional supremacy, because there are some sections on both sides that believe in this rhetorical supremacy. There was a case which we had where a party spokesperson crossed the line on a show, and everyone was on the streets shouting "Sar tan se juda." As much deplorable as those statements were, the legal precedents should have taken over, but it were people who were showing the supremacy. Yes, a ruling party member said ki jeb mein chaku hona chahiye, but then it was one of the OAC brothers who said remove the police for 15 minutes and we'll kill 1 crore Hindus. So these statements, this boisterous rhetorical supremacy has been on both sides, and Mohan Bhagwat is condemning them equally, where he says that rhetorical supremacy, either from Muslims or from Hindus or even from communists, is incorrect and futile in today's time. So we have to look at things in the current context. And if you look at the interview in its entirety, I think he's asking for a more pluralistic society, more diverse society with accommodation of diverse ideas and ideologies. Otherwise, why would he would have stressed that the population bill is about awareness? It's not something that can be forced. We've seen how the discussions around the population bill happen in this country, and Mohan Bhagwat took a very, very liberal view, saying we have to focus on awareness. We can't force someone to follow it. So I think it would be incorrect to refer to this.
I take your point that you need to look at the interview in its entirety. In particular, it's very interesting. Mohan Bhagwat speaks about social acceptance of LGBTQ communities, and thereby seems to sort of suggest that you need to create a more inclusive society. However, there are mixed messages, Professor. There are mixed messages that come across. When you speak about the word war and say that that war still exists, it almost suggests that we are in a conflict situation. Now, are we really in that kind of conflict situation of a violent confrontation? Because that then leads to fear. Then the minorities feel fearful if Mohan Bhagwat is to say that a certain section of Hindus will be aggressive. I mean, why do you need to condone their aggression?
Rajdeep, when you say that my path is the only path, this is the only reality, then you are breeding the element of intolerance towards other religions. When you say that the Allah is the only, and nobody else is to be worth worshipable, then you are breeding the grounds or elements of intolerance. Let me hear. No Indic religion has said so. It is only and that is why Bankim, when Bankim is saying the entire medieval period is a chronicle of rape of Hindu women, destruction of our temples, and what was the idea of jihad, by the way? So this is what he is referring to, and still you are carrying that kind of a mindset, Darul Harb and Darul Islam. That means the land, which is the land where there is Islamic rule, and there is a land where Islam is not the ruling entity. That land has to be converted into the land of Islam, and therefore, increase the population, convert.
But can you generalize? The question is, Shahid Siddiqui, maybe Mohan Bhagwat needs to be more specific in making these distinctions. On the other hand, should Indian Muslims also be conscious that there could be groups which are using this extremist language are reflecting it in their actions, who also need to be rejected, excluded, condemned at all times.
Rajdeep, it's unfortunate that our, co-citizens and people around us do not realize that Indian Muslims have been in the forefront of opposition to extreme Islam, to extreme interpretation of Islam. They have all along not fallen in the trap of Pakistan, not fallen in the trap of Al-Qaeda or other such organizations. Indian ulama unitedly have condemned all these ideas of jihad, all these ideas of annihilation of other groups, and in fact they
can I ask one
praise Indian Muslims
Professor Raji has a question
standing
for
up
you.
to
Yes,
terrorism, standing up to
Shahid,
kind of
Professor has a question for you.
extremism.
Just a minute. Yes.
Please, let me finish. I have been listening to everybody.
A small question, Shahid.
Yes.
Deoband
please,
India
listen
and
to me.
Deoband Pakistan have the common
Yes.
syllabus. They teach 11th century Hidayah text, which is talking about the aggressive jihad, which Arif Muhammad Khan also talked about. Deoband Pakistan, along the Durand line, both sides is breeding, the terrorist.
You can have a
You tell
separate
me,
debate
no,
on
no, no,
the
no,
syllabus of the
no, please,
madrasas, but the point
understand
is,
it.
You've asked the question, let him respond.
Don't take Indian Muslims as a part of the global Islamic group. Indian Muslims are unique in their own way. You must accept that. You want to force Indian Muslims into the
are you saying that?
global Islamic
Are you
force.
saying
You are forcing them, but they are not. They are not ready to do that.
Who led the movement of Pakistan were not part of the Indian Muslims? Are you saying that those who went to Pakistan, they were not the Indian Muslims?
Rajdeep, I'm not getting into a debate with him on the issue of partition. That's a separate debate and will require lot of information. And so these generalized statements are of no consequence. The Deobandis and the Muslims in majority opposed partition. The vote was with 13%. People only had the right to vote, and out of that, hardly 5% voted, and out of those 5%, only 2.5% voted for Muslim League, and they were voting for Muslim League because their landlords were standing, their Nawabs were standing. They were voting for the Nawab, not for the idea of Pakistan. A common Muslim in a village had no idea what exactly Pakistan was and how partition will happen.
Therefore,
these things happened in just 1.5 years. So let's not go into the history. That history will require a lot of information. So if you're digressing from the debate, then I don't like it. We believe in building bridges. We want Hindus and Muslims to come together and build a new path. If we are going to go on quoting what Sardesai said in 1868 or someone else said, then there is no end to it. Indian Muslims in the last 70 years have shown that they stand with India and they do not support. They do not support any kind of extremism. Indian Muslims are the most moderate and most sensible citizens of this country, and therefore we must respect them and we must support them in their fight against any kind of extremism.
Is that part of the problem, Sudhindra? Is that part of the problem, Sudhindra Kulkarni, that when we look at these issues, we seem to go back into the past. Even Mohan Bhagwat, when he speaks of a 1,000-year war, effectively is going into the past. Why should today's Muslims be held culpable for what Aurangzeb did? Why should today's Muslims have to bear the cross of what may have happened 500, 600 or indeed during partition? Is that part of the problem? Today's Muslims should be judged for what they do today.
You are absolutely right. It is wrong, and especially coming from the leader of a very large organization like the RSS, to say that the war is continuing for 1,000 years. It does not heal the divisions, it widens the divisions. Tomorrow, January 12, is the birth anniversary of Swami Vivekananda. And Vivekananda has said that, and this was more than 100 years ago, that any religion that claims supremacy, that claims exclusivism, is going to be rejected, and only integration will work. And India has shown the path towards integration. All religions are equal, all religions, people belonging to all religions are free to practice their faiths, but nobody should espouse supremacy and propagate a certain message that others are inferior. That's the only way to harmonize Indian society and strengthen Indian nation.
So you're saying
And
live
it
in
is
the
in
present.
this context that
Live in the present,
the word
don't
war.
You're
that
saying
Mohan
don't
Bhagwat
revive,
has used
don't
is very
revive the
deplorable.
scars of the past, live in the present. Tushar, you wanted to make a point, go ahead.
You know, I agree with you, Rajdeep. In my humble view also, there is only an extent to which we can dwell on the past, be it 100 years or 1,000 years, or one dynasty or the other dynasty. But if we talk of today, just 6 months ago, there were some elements, and not all elements. They do not define a community, they do not represent that community. But some elements were on the road who believed that Sar Tan se juda supersedes the law of the land, and people who were supporting someone on their WhatsApp statuses were to be punished because their religion said so. Now that is the
No, but
rhetorical
why should every
supremacy we
Muslim
must
be, why should every Muslim be judged by Sartan se juda? Why
Absolutely.
should every Hindu be judged by what the
That's what
Bajrang
I
Dal
said.
does?
Get agitated on
Absolutely.
Bhagwa color of Shah Rukh Khan's film. That's all right.
Absolutely. No one should be color coding. No one
some
should be
Muslims can get
on every
agitated
side.
if you insult the
Every
Prophet.
side.
What is wrong with that? If you insult Maryada Purushottam Shri Ram, I'll feel insulted. If you insult any of the Hindu gods, I'll feel equally insulted. So what is wrong with that? I mean, if you are insulting and the historical facts are not to be quoted in a debate the way it was done in a TV debate.
I wish we had more time on this, but clearly we need a more nuanced discussion on Mohan Bhagwat's messaging, because if you look at it in sound bites, it appears as if the RSS Sarsang Chalak in a sense is creating a situation for a potential conflict or confrontation, but perhaps some of the statements in that same interview that speak about the need for diversity, for inclusivity, are the ones that perhaps could become the building blocks for a better India.
Can I make the
Professor, yes, you can make 30 seconds.
The aggression in Islam has been for the expansion of Islam. The aggression which he is referring to
But
is
it's
for
not
the
true in
defense of
India.
Islam. It is true in India
Where
as
is it
well.
in India? Indian Islam is very, very different.
It's very different, but at the same time there is a section within the Islam which shares the same ideology, and it is the theological
Sure, but
position.
why should every Muslim be judged by that?
No,
why should every Muslim have to go through a test of patriotism?
He is not referring to all Muslims. Rajdeep, read his
all
entire
Indians are
text.
not manufactured in
He is
a
not
factory.
referring
All
to the
Chinese are
entire
not
Muslims.
manufactured
He
in a
never have
factory.
said so. And this is not in the consonance of what the RSS position
There
has been
will be-
always.
look at the
That
majority,
They
look
never
at the-
have blamed the entire
what
Muslim
most of the
population.
Muslims are doing.
There is a segment, actually, every
Indian
ideology
Muslims have
is
stood by the
dominated
nation
the
in
elite
wars
within the
on the
ideology.
issue of
It is the
Kashmir,
Ashraf,
on every
bullet
issue.
movement of Pakistan. And here also there is a section within the Muslim community which is cherishing this kind of ideology.
As
and the
we've
ethos.
said, all extremist voices that
is a
speak
section-
about religious supremacy need to be challenged and defeated. Because the greatness of this country lies in its ability to accommodate and harmonize. And there are enough
Absolutely.
forces that can do that.
Absolutely,
Those need to
Rajdeep.
be
That's what we are
strengthened.
trying to
And
do.
that's what Mohan Bhagwat perhaps needs to focus on,
Absolutely.
rather than revive what happened 1,000 years ago or speak of a 1,000-year war. But I leave it at that. As I said, we could have a much longer discussion on this. Appreciate all my guests joining us.